Jason Landry. Now, the more I researched this case, the more I was like, what happened? So, I really couldn't find out much about Jason, except for one quote from his father that I'm going to share with you. And y'all know I hate that. I really want to be able to tell you about these people, about their lives before they went missing, about their character, about them, to make them people. And I find it extremely, extremely upsetting and difficult when I can't do that for you. So, Jason Landry's father's name is Kent, and he described his son Jason as funny, quirky, and a person who knows God. Kent said that despite the emotional hardships that he and his family have faced, he reflects back on his time with his son Jason with absolute joy. So that's going to bring us to the not so distant past. Just over a year ago, on December 13th of 2020, it was a particularly chilly night. And we're going to start this case at around 10:55 p.m. I got most of my information for this case off of a timeline that was released by, like, the San Marcos, I almost said San Angelo, but that's not what I was trying to say. That's a different case. Newspaper. So I'm going to give you a lot of different time references here so you can understand how close some of these times are, and we'll talk about it a little bit later. So, 10:55 p.m., Jason leaves his apartment for his parents' home in Missouri City, which was, according to some reports I read, 2.5 hours, and some reports said 3. I guess it just depends on the route and the speed limit, and if you do the speed limit. He is expected to spend his winter break there. He had moved to San Marcos just a couple of months before to attend Texas State and study music. His father said it seemed like kind of an odd time for him to go to university because that university, much like the rest of the country, was still under coronavirus restrictions, but Jason really enjoyed being there, his father said, so he went back to school. Now, Jason had only driven home just twice before this December trip, so he opens up an app called Waze to guide him home. At 11:05 p.m., according to the Caldwell County Sheriff's investigators, Jason is driving along in his tan Nissan Altima on Texas 80, and he passes under Interstate 35 in San Marcos. He continues south on Texas 80 into Caldwell County, and he is in Martindale around 11:11 p.m. At 11:15 p.m., he continues on Texas 80. He passes the Texas 130 and travels through several small towns, including Fentress, Prairie Lee, and Stairtown. clothing in the street. He did a lousy job, said Jason Landry's father, Kent. Investigators think his car crashed into a tree and a barbed wire fence after Jason overcorrected on the gravel road and spun out of control. The rear window of the vehicle was broken as a result of the impact with the tree. Caldwell County authorities have said no evidence indicates that another vehicle was involved or an outside force was involved in the crash, which I immediately considered an outside force to be like a deer, but I don't know how they could determine that. According to the police reports, no one entered Jason's vehicle and it was towed to an impound lot. Around 2 a.m., Kent Landry receives a phone call that no parent wants to receive in the middle of the night. Hey, we found your son's car, but he's not in it. Kent got the phone call because he was the registered owner of Jason's car. And he, immediately drives to the impound lot to claim the vehicle. He arrives at around 5:30 a.m. and when they open to allow him access to the car, he eventually gets in because the doors are kind of locked and things. So he finds out that the driver's side door is not locked. He searches the car and he finds Jason's phone between the driver's seat and the center console. Authorities have said that they don't know if the phone fell while he was driving through the intersection of Austin and Magnolia or during the crash. Austin and Magnolia is where the digital footprint ended, so maybe it accidentally turned itself off. So Kent takes the phone and he decides to visit the scene of Jason's crash. He's a lawyer or a former lawyer, depending on which article you read, so he immediately gets out his phone and starts to video the crash site. I don't know if this was for insurance purposes or if he, in his gut, just absolutely knew something was wrong with his child, as a parent does. So he gets to the crash site at 6 a.m. He finds articles of clothing just strewn into the road, and about 900 feet from the crash was Jason's backpack that was left behind and then taken by the police once Kent shows up, which is all bizarre to me. About 100 feet away from the crash site are clothes that are thought to be what Jason was wearing while he was driving the car. A shirt, shorts, socks, underwear, sandals, and his watch are found on the ground. Investigators find a single smear of blood on the left hip of Jason's shorts, but they do not believe that it is indicative of any serious injuries. The blood spot could be from coming into contact with the barbed wire fence or foliage after the crash. No other blood spots are found at the crash site or inside of the car. A baseball cap, a plastic bag of toiletries, and oddly enough, a tumbler with a dead betta fish are also found near the crash scene. Jason's wallet, the aforementioned small amount of marijuana, couldn't find the exact amount, but every article said small, not a factor, a laptop computer, gaming equipment, and a few personal items were in Jason's backpack. Later on that day, still December 14th, Jason is officially declared missing, and a Texas-based non-profit group called Texas Search and Rescue comes on as the lead search team. Texas EquiSearch, a search group on horseback, assists them. After assist authorities with small searches, of which I've read there have been like 8 or 9. So that brings us to February 26th, 2021. Texas Search and Rescue begins a 3-day hunt with more than 100 volunteers, covering more than 31,000 acres on foot. They used dogs trained in detection for human remains. They also scout by horseback. They use drones. They deploy side scan, sonar, and conduct water searches. And they survey by helicopter. Volunteers scour a defined search area and provide all data and information collected to the Caldwell County Sheriff's Office. But Jason Landry is not found. They search again on October 16th to another area of interest that was identified through artificial intelligence and other geospatial tools. With the data gathered and analyzed from past searches, the Caldwell County Sheriff's Office identifies points of interest that should be searched, and they investigate further. So, some bones do turn up in this search, but none of them were human. The search for Jason Landry continues even today. The theories about what happened to this kid are all over the map. Speculation online regarding Jason's whereabouts have of course circulated since his disappearance. There are Facebook discussions. They have openly theorized and examined the facts of this case. And Candace said he's unsure of what to do with the mix of fact and fiction surrounding the theories of his son's disappearance. He said, "I simply don't know. I really wish I knew, but I really don't. I've just heard so many different things. I don't think it was Bigfoot. I don't think it was aliens. Some of the theories are, particularly for young adults, running away from home or something like that, starting a new life, but that's not Jason. He wouldn't do that." However, Kent Landry says only one possibility was really seriously considered by the police department. Captain Ferry thinks there is no evidence other than Jason wandered off, and we just haven't found his body. Well, after a year, shouldn't you at least consider other possibilities? Kent questions. But he simply hasn't. Kent says the notion that another person may have been involved in Jason's disappearance was never seriously vetted by the police. Captain Ferry says we have to go in the direction that the evidence takes us, whether we like it or not. And in this instant, this is no doubt a tragedy, but it is not a crime. So, at Kent Landry's insistence, an investigator from the Texas Attorney General's office will now be involved in this case after he contacted them. Captain Ferry says he of course welcomes any help from the state and any other agencies that would be willing to assist in this case. Captain Ferry says it is important that people know what this is and what it's not. Again, there is no evidence of a crime. So, because the police do not think there is any evidence of a crime, they do not plan to process any other DNA evidence that was obtained from Jason's car. There wasn't any blood, but there were other DNA profiles picked up in his car. Captain Ferry believes that Jason, under the influence, took a wrong turn, crashed the car, exited the car, stripped off all of his clothes, wandered into the near freezing temperature, died, and was devoured by wild hogs. He said, quote, "I don't think the hogs are what killed him, but hogs are opportunistic. If a hog encounters a meal, especially in December, I do not think he's going to pass that up." End quote. right? And he thinks that it's been wildly under-investigated. He, in the beginning, thought that maybe Jason had followed an errant GPS signal. He said, "I don't know why my son was down this road. My best guess is he will follow Waze wherever it sends him. He's coming home from college. He was here on this road. I don't know if he was trying to avoid a deer or whatever. Swerved and hit some trees." Now, Landry is not alone in his belief that this case is under-investigated, and my opinion doesn't count. A former FBI agent based in San Antonio by the name of Abel Pena, who founded Project Absenteus, also believes one thing. Pena and his team of private investigators are working on the Landry case pro bono. And he says, if you go down the road believing that nothing happened to Jason Landry, then you're not going down that road of talking to people. Pena has forwarded a list of 10 people to the Caldwell County District Attorney. These are people that he believes may have knowledge or provide clues into what happened to Jason Landry. Captain Ferry maintains there is strong evidence that Jason did not stop his car in Caldwell County until the car crashed. That evidence is the basis on his theory that since Jason did not stop, he did not come into contact with anyone who could have killed him. Pena, who does not have the same level of access to evidence as Captain Ferry, of course, in this case, disputes the contention that it's impossible that Landry came into contact with anyone, and it may have happened at the Lulling intersection, where he failed to turn right to proceed onto I-10. Landry had traveled this route correctly twice before. Pena said, "We strongly believe something happened at that intersection that caused him to go down that road at night. Or perhaps he was not even driving the car that night. Someone else may have been driving the car down that road." Pena's theories about what happened, which he admits are not concrete, may soon get a second look. The Texas Attorney General's Cold Case Unit has agreed to take another look at Jason Landry's disappearance. There is a $10,000 reward for information that helps investigators find Jason Landry. If you know anything about Jason Landry's whereabouts, please call 911 or the Caldwell County Sheriff's Office at 512-398-6777 or email Detective Jeff Ferry at jeff.ferry, Ferry, at co.caldwell.tx.us. All of that information will be in the description box down below. So let's talk about this case a little. This reminded me remarkably of the Bryce Laspisa case. Remarkably of that case. Same situation, kids coming home from college, kind of driving in the middle of the night, tired, cars found wrecked, parents notified, middle of the night, kid never seen again. Remarkably like that case. Again, if you don't know that case, I will link it in the description box down below. I covered it a while back. So there is a little bit of information I didn't include in the case files of this because it is recently released, and it didn't really fit into kind of the list of evidence that I was giving you. So recently, the police released a video of Jason on the night that he went missing. He, I guess, was FaceTiming, don't quote me on that, but he was video chatting with another friend of his, and he was in this kind of muscle shirt, and he was sweating profusely, and you could see his armpit stains and everything, and he was completely just out of it. In the video, he's seen rolling up some drugs to get them ready to take with it as marijuana. Rolling. I don't know what YouTube will feel about that, but and he's just completely erratic in this video. And I guess the friend saved the video because he didn't think that Jason would remember it the next day because he was so out of it, and he thought he would video it to show him the next day. Now, they don't release the whole video, so there's only snippets of what they were actually talking about. It wasn't anything really relevant, but the police have kind of used this information to say that this is why he stripped off all of his clothes, because he was so hot and sweaty. Here's the thing. I heard about hypothermia being like a subject in this case, and I have to think that that's probably not the case. Now, they estimated that he crashed at 11:34 p.m. ish, and the volunteer firefighter, I don't remember his name, I don't know that I wrote down his name, found the car at 12:31. So we have roughly an hour. So I personally don't think that Jason would have gotten hypothermia in near freezing, it wasn't freezing, weather in under an hour. The headlights of the car was still on. The car was still like functioning. He could have sat in the car with the heat on, because it was like the rear of the car that had hit the tree, with the engine running, as to not freeze. Now, I'm not saying that hypothermia wasn't a factor later, but his clothes were found like within 100 yards of the car. That to me says he wasn't freezing, got out of the car, stripped, and walked away. I know that that can be a thing in hypothermia where you get so cold and then you start to get really hot, and so you strip off all of your clothes. I find it incredibly odd that they found all of his clothes, like every single item he was wearing: shirt, shorts, shoes, watch. The watch part was so disturbing to me, and I don't even know why. I mean, potentially he was just sweaty and he was just trying to get everything off of himself. To leave his backpack, all of his gaming equipment, phone, that just seems so strange to me. I feel like if he was trying to take off to get help, he would have at least taken his backpack with all of his expensive stuff with him. But I just don't have a reasonable explanation. I feel like if wild hogs had potentially attacked him and had him for dinner, wouldn't there have been some trace of that? I feel like that can't be like this is terrible to say, but like the cleanest process. And they searched like right away. So wouldn't they have found something? I mean, I don't know much about wild hogs, but anything like blood or a bone or something. How big are wild hogs that like the skull would be gone? Like, I find that really, really odd, and I don't know much about it, so my theories aren't exactly valid necessarily, or information based, I should say. That's absolutely terrifying to me, the thought of that happening. I cannot think of a worse fate than that. I can only hope, if that is what happened, that there wasn't much suffering in Jason's case. But I also think that if that is the case, it sucks a whole lot, because his family will probably never ever find any form of closure. But I find it so strange that they have searched this huge amount of area and not found, basically from what I could find, anything. Now, in December, I imagine that there's a harder concept of tracking. frozen. You can't really look at the foliage and be like, oh yeah, somebody went through here, see this broken branch, because it's not, I don't know. I know they can do that. It's really cool. I don't know that much about it, but I have to wonder if the freezing of the ground and things also influences the tracking dogs. Can they not pick up a scent as well? If everything is frozen, I would have thought his scent would be that much more traceable because he didn't have on any shoes. I don't know. I don't have a theory in this case. I don't know if he had some kind of psychological break and he was just so erratic that he wandered into the woods and got lost and succumbed to the elements. I honestly don't know. Maybe he did come across someone at that intersection that waved him down, or it had to be someone that got his attention from outside of the car because they would have seen it on his phone if he had gotten a text or something. Although they did say that he started using Snapchat. They did not say that he closed the Waze app to then use Snapchat for directions, because Snapchat doesn't do that. Yes, it does have a map in it, but it's not going to give you like turn-by-turn directions. So maybe he opened his Snapchat and whatever that was detoured him off his path. The problem with Snapchat is they do go away after a certain time, and I'm not really 100% sure if they can be gotten back once they're gone. Some people have their Snapchat set up to save kind of what they send and things like that, so that is a possibility, but I did not come across that information anywhere in this case to lead me down that road. This is just me sitting here having theories with you. I know that some people don't like my theories sometimes, and that's okay. Like, everyone is completely entitled to their opinion, but I have been deleting some hate comments, and I absolutely hate that. Like, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. I have a hard enough time like leaving the comments on in my videos based on the hate I get just for whispering cases like this, that I really don't need any mean comments. And my life state at the time, I'm not sure I'm in a position to be nice about mean comments. And I really do try my hardest to treat people like I would want to be treated, but it's hard. Sometimes it's really hard to deal with snooty people. If you follow me on Instagram, you saw my comment back to someone that was like, ugh, another, why are you whispering? And I was like, ugh, another person that didn't read the title. My filter is gone. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching this video and being here on my channel. If you're still listening to me ramble on and you have not yet, please like and subscribe and leave me a comment down below. Even if it's just an emoji, you have no idea how much that affects this crazy YouTube algorithm that doesn't really like to show people my videos, mostly because I don't put my face in the thumbnail. I've never wanted my face in the thumbnail. I've only done it one time. I don't know, I guess because I never really like pictures of myself. Ideally, I would be talking to you and all you would be looking at is this light. But I don't think people would like that very much. So, I'm gonna go. I have to film a video for Patreon now. And if you're curious about what goes on over there, I definitely do a lot more rambling over there. And you can join us there for as low as $2 a month. No pressure, but with just those $2, you get access to everything. I used to have tiers set up, but I just wasn't able to really